again, as I spoke to you about this show, it's a new rebranding, and I think we're gonna love it. I have with me here a very good friend of mine. He's gonna introduce himself. His name is Andrews, but he's gonna tell you what he does, and he has a nice topic for us to discuss. So join in and let's flow. Hi, Andrews.
Yeah, hi, Priscilla. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm good to have you too. It's been a while, and I'm glad you're the very first guest on this show.
Am I not blessed?
Okay, so who is Andrews? If you want to give us a little introduction about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so Andrews Adugu is a young gentleman.
I like that.
It's profession, it's law. So I work in the Volta region, specifically in Ho, Volta region, Ghana, West Africa. I am a state attorney, so that means that I am, in a literal sense, a government lawyer. But before becoming a state attorney, I've worked in private practice here in Ghana, dealt with many issues, right from criminal issues to commercial issues to family law and other related stuff. But currently, I am doing a lot more of criminal law. I do a little bit of civil law, and my main concentration, one of them is prosecution of human trafficking cases here in the Volta and OT regions. It's a very interesting field, and I'm loving it.
Nice. So how many years have you been practicing law so far?
So I'm 8 years and counting.
Talking about today, Andrews.
So today we are discussing marital rights and duties.
Marital rights and duties. Most of us being married don't even know our rights and duties. So I'm glad I have you here. I'm glad you're the expert in this field. So what are marital rights and the duties involved?
Okay, so first of all, I need to set down the tone of who a married person is in Ghana, or who is recognized as a married person, before we even talk about the rights of persons. So under the Ghanaian law, we have three kinds of marriages. The first one is the customary marriage, what a lot of people refer to as engagement. That is a wrong reference. It's rather customary marriage. It's also recognized under our laws. Then we have what we call the ordinance marriage. That's Marriage Ordinance Cap 127. Then we also have the Mohammedan Ordinance. So let me break it down. So customary marriage is what people would call the engagement.
Is it the same thing we call
the ordinance marriage? Yes, traditional marriage. Traditional marriage.
Okay.
It is recognized under our law. And one interesting thing people don't know is that you can even get a certificate when you marry under customary law. We have a customary marriage certificate. A lot of people don't know that you can apply for and get your customary marriage certificate. Then the second one is the ordinance marriage. So it's either you do your wedding, you do a wedding, or you do your celebration of marriage in court. They are the same thing. Wedding and court are the same thing. The most important thing is that whoever you celebrate your wedding must be by a registered minister and also must be as a registered place for celebration of marriages. Then the third one is the Mohammedan Ordinance, usually for our Islamic brothers and sisters. So mainly, these are the three recognized forms of marriage. If you have been cohabiting with somebody for so many years, you are not married under any of these three. So strictly speaking, we don't classify that as marriage, although you may have been living together for quite a while. So we need to get the basis of this marriage and the rights which comes with that.
So let me come in here. Does that mean that some of us end up doing all three almost? You do traditional, then you go to court, then you go to church. You know how we do all, some do two and three.
So normally for the Christians in Ghana, they actually do two. They do the customary marriage, and from there they go and do the ordinance marriage. So they actually convert their customary marriage to the ordinance, because in Ghana, we believe that marriage is between families, and most of our churches ensure that you would have asked of the lady's hand in marriage customarily or traditionally before you come to the church. So we actually do a conversion. Under our laws, you can go straight and do ordinance marriage without even doing customary marriage. You can. There's no requirement for you to have done customary marriage before you come and do the ordinance. And there are various regulations with it, which is a topic for another day.
Okay. Just to ask, do we have this law in common with any other West African countries around, if you may know? Does Nigeria practice it? Togo? Ghanaian?
That I can't tell. That I can't tell. But I know that the Nigerian laws are quite similar to ours because we are all common law countries. So we might have similarities with them. And particularly with Nigeria, they put a lot of emphasis on their traditional marriage. You know, their traditional marriage is one key thing they play. I mean, they put a lot of emphasis on.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that whether you do customary marriage, you do the ordinance under Cap 127, whether you go to court or your wedding, or you do an Islamic marriage under the Cap 129, you are a married person. You have rights and you have duties to perform in that marriage union.
Does that mean a person can have two marriage certificates, one being the traditional marriage certificate and the court, or one from church?
That's correct. In fact, when you do your customary marriage and you wish to get a customary marriage certificate, you can get one. But the thing about it is that if you convert your marriage to ordinance, or you go into the wedding or you do court, your marriage has now been converted from customary to ordinance. So the customary certificate is no more of relevance. The ordinance takes over because it is a monogamous marriage, one man, one wife.
Okay. So I know some churches require you to get a traditional certificate, bring it to them before they make sure you get married in the church.
Okay, so actually that is not the case. I mean to say, the church requires you to go and get the registrar's certificate. So before you start the ordinance, you need to go to the registrar of the district court or the registrar of marriages. Then that registrar would do what we call the notification of publication of banns. They'll post the notification for 21 days. After 21 days, if nobody comes to caveat or if nobody has any issue why the two of you should be joined in marriage, then the registrar will issue you with a certificate. That's a registrar certificate. It is that certificate that you give to your marriage officer who is licensed to be able to celebrate the marriage, or the registrar will give it to a magistrate of a district court, so that your marriage under ordinance can be celebrated.
Oh, okay. I think marriage is a big topic we have to go into and discuss on another day. So what are marital rights, after you've given us this background?
So clearly, marriage is a union between a man and a woman. In Ghana, there's a union between a man and a woman to the exclusion of all others. A man and a woman to the exclusion of all others under our ordinance law. So what it means is that it is a consent between a man under the ordinance law, a consent between a man and a woman to be married. Okay. So that means that nobody needs to force anybody to get married. You need to consent to it. It must be voluntary for you to get married. If at any point in time we realize that your going to that marriage was not voluntary, you are compelled, then that marriage could be annulled, or your consent was procured by fraud, or you were forced or compelled to get into that marriage. That marriage could be annulled. Remember, I'm not using the word divorce. I'm using the word annulled because the consent that was even procured in itself was void at the beginning.
Okay. So what are the rights of a married person, a man or a woman? We talk in the context of Ghana only. What are the rights of a married man or a married woman?
So the understanding is that when two people are married, if you're going to be a Christian or you're a Christian, we say that the two of them have become one. So there are certain similarities or certain things that they can share or they are allowed to do under the law. For example, one key thing is sex, because sex is what? Consensual. So once you are married, you are allowed by the law to be able to have sex. And of course, it's the understanding for two people who are married to consummate what their marriage. And sex is one key thing of marriage, which we always ensure that it should be done. So you have a right to actually demand for sex from your spouse, and your spouse also has, the same right to demand from you. But on sex, we must understand that just like any other thing, we must have a regulation, and we must understand each other doing stuff like that. So assuming somebody is very, very ill and cannot satisfy that need,
Yeah.
you don't have to force a person, because then you'll be abusing the person. So once there's a right, there's also a corresponding duty. That's why we say that whenever there are rights, there are duties. So that's one key thing. That's one germane thing. And usually that brings a lot of problems. That form of communication and that dispute or the challenge with sex is one key thing that brings about divorce and a lot of things. I'm sure we may have to talk about that some other day. But that's one key thing.
We definitely have.
But that's one key thing. Yeah, that's what she said.
I'm going to crop it off anyway. So yeah, go ahead.
All right, sure. So the next thing is about property rights. A very big issue. I mean, property in marriage is one big issue. So the question is that what right do you have if you acquire property during marriage? In fact, people actually give advance money to their spouses, especially women, advance money to their husbands to be able to buy property. And customary of us, when property is bought, you see the man, he is the head of the house. So the property is in the name of the man. But one thing we need to understand is that currently under our laws, when a property is acquired during the subsistence of marriage, in case there's a dissolution of that marriage, that property will be shared 50-50. Whether one spouse contributed any amount or not, that property would be shared 50-50.
Let me get you clear. So I get married and he buys a house. Whether we're still married or not, I have a 50% part in that house is bought.
Yes, once the property was acquired during the subsistence of the marriage, so you see, you use the word he bought the house. In fact, you both bought the house. Because there are certain sacrifices that you have to make for him to be able to buy the house.
Yes.
For instance, maybe you may have your salary supporting the home, whilst he uses a chunk of his money to be paying for probably a mortgage or something of a sort. So the law is that there are certain things that spouses contribute that you cannot quantify. For example, I mean, customarily or culturally in Ghana, it's a woman's duty to wash and clean the house. Now, assuming you've got somebody else to come and be cleaning the house or to be washing, you would have been paying the person. But the woman will be running all these things. If you put it in monetary terms, that is huge. It may also be that a woman may have bought the house, but a man may have stayed in the house to ensure that things are done or supervise certain things. If you were to pay the person for supervision, all that amount of money goes high. And to prevent people from thinking that I can acquire my property, you can acquire your property, and to have all these disputes, you must understand that the property that is acquired during the subsistence of the marriage is property owned by both of you. No one can dispose of the property without the other's consent. That's the current law.
I see. That's an eye-opener to me, and I'm sure to most people watching too. So, in basic terms, after you get married, anything that's acquired by the man or the woman becomes half 50% of yours. You all have a share in that 50-50.
Yes, in fact, I should add this, that there's a current land act which has consolidated all the laws on land in Ghana. It says that even if a man buys a land and he registers it in his name, it is presumed to be owned by himself and the wife.
Oh, and this is a new law addition?
These are new laws. These are new laws. I mean, we are codifying and we are making provision for spousal rights. You know, there's supposed to be, Parliament is supposed to pass a spousal rights law. And these are provisions in the Constitution that we are giving flesh to by enacting it in our various laws.
Okay, I wish most of us would know this earlier, then we know how to act though. So anything acquired after the marriage, I like that part. I'm so excited about that part. I have a share in that if I live in Ghana. Do I have to be Ghanaian to have that?
That's correct. Law? In fact, once you are married Once you're married under our Ghanaian law, you have a right to the property. You have a right to the property. So whether the property is acquired here, the properties are acquired elsewhere, you have a right to the property. But you see, when I discuss property, I am a little bit skeptical in discussing property because a lot of people go into the marriage with the mindset of going to get property. Yeah. So for most people, the difficulty we have is that there's so much focus on property getting instead of the union and how the union is going to prosper.
Mm-hmm. That's also a topic for another day.
A very big topic for another day. Yeah. So people should not just think that, okay, because of this, then, okay, I can do whatever I want to do. But once people understand it right from the beginning, people would know exactly what they're supposed to do so that they don't make certain mistakes. For most men, don't take that once you buy it, it's your own property, you can sack the person. The woman has a right to it. If it's a woman who bought it, the man has a right to it. So you need to have that at the back of your mind before you think of misbehaving, which you shouldn't do actually.
Okay. So anything I had before I entered the marriage is still going to be mine, right?
That is correct. Anything you had before you entered the marriage is actually yours. It's only those you acquired during the subsistence while the marriage was still alive.
So that brings me to another question. If this is so simple, if he has two houses, he takes one, you take one, why does it become difficult in cases of divorce, sharing properties what a woman is entitled to? Why is this a difficult case when it comes to distributing properties after a divorce process?
So I'm going to get back to how you even captured it. You said if he has two houses. So that now the talk should be if we have two houses, because now both of you have it.
Thank you.
So the mentality already, and I totally understand from where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So the mentality already, if we have a TV, if we have a sewing machine, if we have a gas cooker, it's we and no more if I have.
Okay.
Exactly. So that is the point. So when it comes to property sharing during the divorce, we sometimes ask ourselves who is to get what. Mm-hmm. Because assuming you have two houses, who picks what and who picks the other one? So those are the things that we look at. One house may be in a prime area, another may be in another area which is not prime. Mm-hmm. Who is giving what? So those are the main considerations that we should have. But even talking about property, I would not even be focusing so much on divorce. But the understanding that when people get married, they must put their resources together, they must put their minds together to be able to build the home, to be able to have access together, because the end of it is that a union between a man and a woman to the exclusion of all others. So you are both coming together to be able to build an empire. And if you look at the Western world, quite a number of companies are family companies. Mm-hmm. They started building as a family, the families have worked on it, and they have been there for a number of years.
Yeah.
So that is what we should be looking at. And once I'm talking about rights, I should also be talking about duty. So if you have a property, it is your duty to maintain that property.